call this a muddle, puddle, tweedle, poodle, beetle, noodle, bottle, paddle, battle. It may be hard to believe that this almost nonsense language is a strong characteristic of one of the best-selling fiction writers of all time. With over 500 million copies sold of his books, he ranks among William Shakespeare and Agatha Christie on the bestsellers list. With 60 books and numerous film adaptations and television adaptations, even a Broadway musical, I'm sure many of you are familiar with his work. Personally, I was raised reading many of his books, and as an English education major, I even am able to appreciate it greater with his social commentary and his literary and poetic techniques. Today I'm going to inform you on the writing of Theodore Geisel, better known as Dr. Seuss, by looking at 3 different genres that he wrote in: his political cartoons, his children's literature, and his beginner readers. I'd like to start by looking at his political cartoons. This is something that many people don't know about Dr. Seuss. He was the chief editorial cartoonist for a New York left-wing magazine newspaper called PM from 1941 to 1943. He wrote many articles dealing with different issues like racism and the war. This is an example right here from the June 30th, 1942 issue, and it is a cartoon of this guy represents the war industry, and he's playing a piano. Uncle Sam is saying, "Listen, maestro, if you want to get real harmony, use the black keys as well as the white." And then here's another one which deals with racism. This is actually a little bit surprising. We think of Dr. Seuss as kind of like a happy-go-lucky, equal rights for everybody, but he actually supported Japanese American internment during World War II. And this article is Japanese Americans getting TNT, and it says waiting for the signal from home. So we don't like Japanese Americans. And there's actually, in a CNN report, historian Richard Minier says that he saw no irony or distance that proves Seuss was depicting prejudice rather than endorsing it. Richard Minier wrote a chronicled all the cartoons for the PA. He was also the commander of the animation department for the first motion picture unit in the Army. He wrote many movies and training films, and actually won an Academy Award for one of those. Now that we know something about Dr. Seuss' political cartoons and writing, I like to look at his more popular children's literature books, which also, like his political cartoons, are rich with social and political commentary. He wrote and illustrated 28 books for children. This is his first one, and I think I saw on Mulberry Street, published in 1937. And like all these books, they all deal with different social issues. And this one deals with the imagination of children. It's a story of a boy named Marco, and he sees a horse and carriage. And by the end of the book, this is what he sees in his imagination. And he goes home, and his father asks him what he saw that day. And he is a very stern father, and because of this, he sits there and hesitates and replies nothing. That all he saw was the horse and carriage. And then a couple more. This was his most political one, the Butter Battle book, written in 1984. And it dealt with the arms race during the Reagan era. It's basically this war between the Yuks and the Zooks. And my favorite part about it is the reason they were fighting is because the Zooks eat bread with the butter side down, and the Yuks eat it with the butter side up. And the end, it's a cliffhanger. They both have this nuclear egg bomb. And the young grandchild asks, well, who's going to drop it? And it just says, we will see. So, who's going to end the world? And then this one I'm sure you're all familiar with, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. It deals with anti-materialism. Grinch steals all the gifts, but they still have Christmas even without gifts, because that's not what matters in life. Also, his books were very poetic. They all contain poetic meter and end rhyming. An example is The End of Bearded Turtle, which deals with anti-authoritarianism. And today the great Beardle, that marvelous he is king of the mud, that is all I can see. It's this type of rhyme and meter that was frequent throughout his writing. And it's authored by Mensch says Seuss's meters, metric triplets, offer the power of more primal chant that quickly draws the reader in with relentless repetition. While these books were his longest books, the beginner readers are his actually most popular, but they're also his greatest challenge to write. In response to a Life article in 1954 that criticized school books and school primers and called for a more interesting approach with kids that have misbehaved. The typical book of the time was like Dick and Jane, and they're really perfect. And Dr. Seuss responded to that with Cat in the Hat, which is his first beginner's book. And Louis Madet in the New Yorker called it a tour de force that killed Dick and Jane. This led to his co-founding of the Beginner Book Series, where they all picked from a pre-approved list of 379 words. 6 of his books are on the Publishers Weekly's list of bestsellers of all time. In conclusion, we have seen that through his various genres of writing, he has garnered much success. His political cartoons are opinionated and effective. His children's literature, which is socially aware and poetic, and his clever educational beginner books. And while the writing of Dr. Seuss often comes off as nonsense, such as the beginning quote from Fox and Socks, it's this nonsense that he's able to deal with such political issues and deliver them to children. And I'll let Dr. Seuss defend himself, who said, "I like nonsense. It wakes up the brain cells. Fantasy is a necessary ingredient in living. It's a way of looking at life through the wrong end of a telescope, and that enables you to laugh at all life's realities."